Everyone has the same 5 core areas of their life that ultimately determine how happy they'll be. Unfortunately, most of us have developed failure habits in each, and it's Will Moore's mission to help replace those with success habits to maximize momentum. After exiting his business for a combined 9-figure sum, Will learned it's not just about becoming an entrepreneur of your career, but an entrepreneur of the most important business you'll ever run, your life. And to crush it in your life requires firing on all cylinders in your 5 cores by continually taking action, building habits, and maintaining balance in each. Hello, and welcome to the 5 Core Life Podcast with Will Moore, founder of More Momentum. If you have not already, please make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening or watching this so that you get notified when new episodes air every week. And on today's episode of the 5 Core Life, host Will Moore sits down with Wes Schaeffer, the sales whisperer. Will and Wes talk about the importance of figuring out what the other person wants, using the Pareto principle of focusing just on the most important 20%, and using long-term thinking versus going for the low-hanging fruit to give it to them, or to not, in order to gain a customer for life. Are you ready to fire on all cylinders? If so, let's go.
Glad you're here. It actually worked out well because I was able to kind of tell my sales journey.
I got you.
Through my real estate days and then my actual doorstep delivery, restaurant delivery service days, which we exited. So Wes Schaeffer, good to have you on, my man. I know you and I had a nice talk on your program. Thanks for having me. Returning the favor, dropping some knowledge, some wisdom. So I kind of was just telling everybody about my sales journey, how important sales is and how many components go into sales that people don't think about. It's not just, you want to do sales so you can make money. Obviously that's part of it, but you got to be able to sell in life. You got to have that confidence that you are your product and you're selling yourself, and it pays off in way more ways than just financially. Would you agree with that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it gives you freedom, right? And that's ultimately, I think that's what everybody wants. But I think we get lied to by phony marketers, fast cars, big houses, and like all that's fine. But ultimately, you want the freedom. Maybe you just want a log cabin. You don't want anybody to mess with you. Like you'd posted. I don't have it up right now, but your post today was like, basically, I want to get rid of all the shit that doesn't bring me peace.
Right.
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 And that's ultimately what I think we all want.
Yeah. So, sales it's an interesting thing, right? Because it's one of these dynamics in life that you can't get rid of sales. I mean, sales, just by human nature, we we need to be able to get across to the other person that they want something we have, right? Whether it's our labor, whether it's a product that we're, and that's part of, the whole process of being a human and evolving and growing. At the same time, it's taken on a life of its own in terms of, sales and the money aspect and, what are you buying? And, Amazon being the number one, just huge giant of like all of the, they're kind of just gobbling up everything. And especially now with COVID, all these retail brick and mortar stores going away and Amazon getting on the sales, and they are selling like crazy, right? But at the same time, it's like people start to get addicted to the buying process, and it's like you're buying things that you may not necessarily need, just like you mentioned, like with this post earlier. So it's all very interesting. It's like, sales goes hand in hand with giving people what they want, and at the same time, a lot of times people don't understand what they want, and they just buy because they think they want it. And so it's kind of an interesting dynamic. So tell us about a little bit more about your journey and how you help people and how you kind of, your sales process and how you convey that to people.
Yeah, I mean, I jumped into sales in '97, right out of the Air Force. Had a wife, and we had a baby, we had another baby on the way, and so I didn't have time to dabble. Right? I had to figure this stuff out. I had to put food on the table. My wife has stayed home for 25 years, and raising 7 kids. So I had to be effective, And a lot of it in the early days was a lot of trial and error, but I'm a good student, constantly looking to grow. But I also, I think a lot of people turn into professional students, right? Talking about people buying on Amazon. There's a lot of people that'll buy self-help and training programs and go to conferences, and never put it into practice. I've read a lot of books, and I've read a lot of half books. I mean, if I get to a point, if chapter 1, you give me this aha moment, I'm putting that book down and I'm getting to work. I'm going to go apply what you just told me, right? And because the whole purpose of any of this is to take action. Knowledge without action, I mean, it's just stale, stagnant information. Maybe you'll win a few bucks on Jeopardy one day, but it's not really going to move the needle. And so, but coming from the military and having a family, and I couldn't do things just for the money. I couldn't do things that weren't right. There's a big misnomer about sales that the Glengarry Glen Ross always be closing, and it's professional salespeople are not like that at all. We love to pick on attorneys, or even car salesmen. But the reality is when you need a good car, when you need a good attorney, you're glad that you know one, and you know who the good ones are. Right. Based on how they conduct themselves.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but I would say you would hope that you would know who the good ones are. To me, it's very hard to find good people in any field in terms of, especially nowadays, it's a lot easier to project an image that's not genuine. So, to me, whenever I always have the rule of 3, like if I'm hiring somebody, like even if it's something for like a plumber for our house, right? Because our toilet's broken. I do a rule of 3 where I reach out to 3 different people. I look at reviews, I look at all that, and I try to find the 3 best, and then I kind of see which one's the best, and hopefully then that's the one, when I connect with the one that I stick with, basically moving forward on my journey.
But when you find them,
exactly right. When you find them,
I mean, there's a guy here, local BMW dealership, Dave Townsend. Years ago, I had my heart set. I was getting a truck. Okay, I literally went to the Ford dealer, and I'd messaged him online. It was just the guy that I was given. I didn't know him at the time. Right? He said, okay. I said, look, I'll be there like 6 o'clock, whatever time. It was in the early evening. And I said, I'm going to the Ford dealership first. I go to the Ford dealership, and I was buying a used truck. I think we've had 2 new cars in our entire lives of marriage. And I went to the Ford dealer, and they had 3 diesels. That's what I wanted. All right. I told the guy literally, I said, just which one can you make the best deal on? Like, I literally don't care. Which one can you make? I want a deal. One of these, are they old? You need to move it. Just make me a good deal, and I'm buying right now. And they played the old trick. Well, let me get your keys. We're going to do an evaluation and assessment. And then he had to go get his manager. And they're playing these games. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. So as they came back, they looped through. I said, I got to get something out of my car. I got my car keys, and I drove away. And I drove to the BMW dealership. And he had my car backed in right in the front. They had this little like 3 or 3.5 foot placard. It stood up and it angled and had just a simple sheet of paper. Welcome, Wes Schaeffer. Here's your BMW 5 Series. And I just walked up. I'm like, okay, I'm 90% sold already. Just on the presentation. Mm-hmm. Okay, we drove it. He was low key. We looked at a couple of others, came back to it. We haggled a little bit. He took a little bit off just because. He's like, look, this is our deal. And I'm like, you know what? You treated me right. I took it. We bought 2 other cars from him since then. We've referred 3 or 4 people at least. And we're in the market again. And the first person we call is Dave.
Okay. So moral of this story, right, is what did he do? So you look at the big picture, there's so many people trying to sell, and I would say they try to make it about themselves, right? And they're in their own head and like, how can I get this guy to but he made it about you, which is just such a simple, like universal principle truth that works in multiple areas of your life, including sales, because you just, when people feel special and they realize like this person is stepping outside their own brain and putting the focus on me and really is understanding what's important to me, what I'm looking for, why I want what I want. And that people recognize that. And because, like we were mentioning earlier, there's so much fraud and phoniness in the world, especially now, media and all this, anybody can have an Instagram, anybody can be a can say they're an expert on something. But when you're able to actually break through and separate yourself and connect to somebody's why, like, why do I want to buy this product? And that's what this guy was able to do with you. Then you're never gonna have problems, right?
Yeah, just treat them right. You've got your 5 cores, right? I've got my 4 pillars that I was taught years ago of selling, right?
Tell us.
Selling is a calling, right? Do you believe you were put on this earth to be in that role? Okay. Now the reality is we're all in sales. If you've ever been on a date, if you've ever asked someone out on a date, if you've ever been denied a date, if you've ever denied someone, said no to someone, that's a sale. You sold them on why they shouldn't ask you out on a date. If you got married, right, you sold your wife on spending the rest of her life with you. People, that's not sales. It absolutely is sales.
That's right.
Okay. And so it's like poker, right? You look around the table. If you don't know who the sucker is, it's you. Everything is sales. When you walk into a restaurant, is there a little lobby? Do you have to wait to be seated? Do you have to put your name in? Do you get your little buzzer? How is the menu presented? Is there a special of the day? Oh, a side salad. You can substitute fries, but it's $1.99 extra. That's a sale. Okay, you can say, well, I would like the salad, but do I really have to be charged $1.99 extra? I'm trying to eat better. I'm trying to lose some weight, trying to lower my cholesterol. Yeah, I don't have to charge you for that. But try that. Okay, that's all sales. All right, but selling is a calling. So do you believe you're where you're supposed to be in life? Serving is its purpose. Okay, you can't go out. Great salespeople are some of the best put together people out there. We're not running around trying to stroke our ego, trying to overcome little issues we had because we got kicked off the monkey bars in 4th grade. We're going to prove little Johnny wrong. No. You're not getting your fulfillment through pounding, a deal, forcing somebody into your will, So, selling is a calling, serving is its purpose. Zig Ziglar always said you can get whatever you want if you help enough people get what they want. Okay. Questioning is the process. I ask people this when I do live training and live events. I'll ask this question. If there are women in the audience, it really helps. Because guys, I don't know who my doctor is. Most women have a regular doctor, right? So I'll ask them and I'll say, who's had their regular doctor, for 5 years, a few hands, 10 years, right? And quite often, I always get a 5 or sometimes a 10 year, maybe 15 years with the same doctor. And I'm like, do you know where your doctor went to school? Like 1 out of 20 will someone go, yeah, I know where they went to school. I'm like, undergrad or grad? Well, oh yeah, I guess grad. Well, I don't know. Then you can already stump them, right? Where they do their residency? How long they've been doing this? But how many years in practice? Where else have they been? What brand mammogram machine do they use? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, you've been with this doctor 5, 10, 15 years, and you don't know any of that stuff, but you go back and do you trust their diagnosis? Do you trust their prescription? I go, yeah. Why? And ultimately, it's literally the bedside manner. How do they treat you as the patient? Do they take their time? And so questioning is the process. As a salesperson, I sell software like Infusionsoft and HubSpot, and these are complex systems, thousands of dollars to set up, 1-year contracts. I mean, I've had clients spend $60,000, $70,000 a year on this software. And I'll sell it very quickly. Not because I demonstrate all 497 buttons. It's because I'm like, what 3 buttons really matter to you? Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to talk about those 3. Because if I can scratch the 80-20 rule, if I can scratch that biggest itch, then you just assume the rest will take care of itself. Or even if they don't, they're minor itches. So, and there's no perfect platform. So let's move ahead, right? So selling is a calling, serving is its purpose, questioning is a process, and a sale may be the solution. Okay. I'm not desperate. I'm not, my dad always says, if you think you're desperate, you are, right? And if you're desperate for that sale, you can't give it away. And so, and you see this when you go to the local hardware store and you need some special bolt or a tool, and the guy's like, we don't have that thing. But hold on a second. I know Joe across town, Joe's Hardware. Let me give him a call. Hey, Joe. Yeah, it's Wes. Yeah, I got, one of those Duma Flitchies. Yeah, eighth. Yeah, 1 and 8. Yeah, okay, you got one? Okay, hey, hold it for me. I'm sending Will over right now. Okay, Will, look, go down to the big oak tree, take a left, go down, you see the Dairy Queen, take a right, and, go tell him I sent you. He's got one for you. You're like, holy crap, really? No, he didn't try to sell you. Then you go get it, and then you go home and you take pictures. You go, yeah, I got this from Joe's Hardware, but I started at Wes's Hardware, and Wes sent me to Joe. This was great service.
Right.
So you're singing my praise because I didn't try to, you don't need that tool. Let me show you the real tool you need.
Yeah. Right. Anybody that does that is like an automatic, like, okay, that's somebody you can trust. And trust is everything in the sales process, right? And so it's like if somebody clearly says, you know what I have isn't the best fit for you, I'm going to send you to somebody else. That's like, write that person and what they do down, because you don't want to forget, if you need something in their realm next time, that's the person you want to go to.
I've downsold people 10 to 1 on software. And I've done this for 13 years. Because they come to me, right, basically saying, I want the Rolls Royce. And I'm like, I think you need the Toyota Camry.
Right.
I would love to sell you the Rolls Royce, but you're going to get out of here and you're going to be mad by tomorrow. Okay. It's too big. It's too nice. It's too many features. And oh, by the way, this is for your kid that turns 16 tomorrow. Yeah. Not even the new Camry. I'm going to get you this nice, gently owned, 5-year-old Toyota Camry. You're going to thank me tomorrow. You're going to thank me for the next 10 years. So trust me on this, and I'll always, you can trade it in and I'll get you the Rolls Royce later. Because people, especially with software, they're like, well, I was at a Tony Robbins conference and I saw that he had this software and I want what Tony has. I'm like, you're not, I could give you Tiger Woods golf clubs. Not only would you still not beat him, you would play worse because they're not fitted to you.
Right.
Okay. You need the proper clubs fitted to you, and then go out and do your best with what you have. I'm downselling more than I'm upselling.
Yeah, I mean that's such a great. Yeah, I mean that's it right there. It's like it's that long term kind of thinking in terms of like, what am I going to project as somebody that's selling a product? What's the reputation I want to get? What do I want to put out into the universe? And it may not pay off in that short term, right? Like obviously most people are that short term. Well, I need to sell him the most expensive one so that I can get my paycheck so that I can go buy something I don't need. Right. Yep. But if you flip the script in your mindset and you're in that sort of long term, I'm in it for the long run and it's going to pay dividends because these people will come back. They'll recommend me to other people. That's the way you want to get. And at the end of the day, you just, if you're an effective salesperson is going to separate themselves from the herd. And you got to think, how can I do that? And you don't want to fake it, because if you fake it, then, people can smell that. But if you genuinely can, shift your mindset to sort of like, okay, I'm in it for the customer, what's best for them. And that's going to just build and build and build. And then you're going to do well. That's how I did it with my sales process as well. I was going through it while you were getting ready to get on here. And when I used to sell land, it was the same thing. And it was like, okay, I would get them out there and I was like, okay, what do you want? What do you need? What type of land are you looking for? And sometimes we would get out there and it just wasn't a good fit. Like it wasn't for them. But I knew we had another event coming up in a couple months that maybe that land was going to be better for them. And so I would just say, no, you know what, let's pass on this one. And a lot of times they would try to push it and like almost force it, right? Like, no. Right. And by doing that, though, I'll never forget. I had this one client. They literally ended up buying. That's how I handled them from the get-go. And they ended up buying like 10 10 or 11 parcels from me total.
Yeah.
And it was that exact philosophy that we're just talking about.
Yep. But you have to understand, again, in sales, your job is to serve. How you do that is to question. And that's where some of the art comes in. Selling is equal parts science and art. It's not, oh, you got the gift of gab. You've never met a stranger. You could sell ice cream to an Eskimo. And I'm like, no. My very first paid sales training client back in 2006 was an architect. He was a young guy, and he was going out on his own. And so he's like, oh man, I got to learn how to sell and market, put myself out there. And I gave him the process, right? And he did very well because he was very analytical, process driven, as an architect. And so when you understand the steps and how to steer the conversation, back and forth, and it's like people are very predictable, right? And so like a brutally a brutal example, right? And just for the interest of time, right? If I show up and I go, hey, Will, that's the ugliest red sweatshirt I've ever seen in my entire life. Are you colorblind? Like who did you get that at Goodwill? Do you need some money? I'll take you shopping. That's horrible, right? How are you going to feel about me?
Right. Your walls will immediately go up.
Walls up.
Right.
Well, Converse, like, dude, that's a great sweater. Oh my God, my high school, those were my colors. I got red everywhere. Man, where'd you get that? Is that hand knit? Is that cashmere? Dude, you got great taste. Whoever dresses you, give them a raise. You're like, well, I picked it out, right? So it's an extreme example, but people are predictable. How we engage, how we encounter with them is going to elicit a response. And so you need to understand body language, eye contact, tonality, pace, it all matters. And then how do you diffuse a situation? How do you get the tough buyer, arms folded? How do you get the chatty ones? You're like, dude, we gotta cut this off. Let's get to the point, because we have to adjust how we sell to match how they buy. Okay, I can't say, oh no, Will, I've got 84 slides, and you're going to see all 84. I have cleared my calendar. You probably need to cancel the rest of we're getting all through 80. If you're a hard charge, you're like, Wes, cut to the chase, bottom dollar. What are we looking at? Boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, here it is, A, B, and C. I recommend B. Here's why, but it's your decision. What do you think? And I'm going to sit back if that's your style.
Right.
Okay. If you're an analytical type, I'm like, here's all 84 slides. I've got them on DVD, CD, MP3, MP4, USB, take it home, thumb drive, get back to me if you have any questions. The analytical types, you got to give them time and let it percolate.
Right.
Okay. I can't accelerate. I can't force you to make a quick decision, but I need to see that in you and adjust how I sell to match how you buy.
Mm-hmm. I would say, right. And all this to me comes back to, we were kind of talking about it earlier, but to me, like the biggest two things, and we're running out of time. We gotta get off shortly. Unfortunately, we started a little bit late, but these have been gold nuggets. So thank you for sharing.
Sure.
And I know our team's gonna cut out and clip some of these examples you're talking about. And we're gonna
leave them wanting more, man. Leave them wanting
more. That's right. But I like, in summary, for me, the two main things, kind of playing off what you were saying, is figure out what that 20% of people, right? The Pareto principle, figure out what it is that's important to them, what they want, right? If you're just blindly trying to sell them and you don't really understand what it is that they want and what it is that they're looking for, you are doing that thing we were talking about earlier, where you're not only are you wasting your time, but you're coming off as a jackass, because they're like, this guy's all about him. He doesn't even understand what I want. And they're not only going to buy from you, they're not going to recommend you, right? It's that short-term thinking. But if you get to that where you ask questions, and that's the second part, is being genuinely interested in them.
Interested, not interesting. Yep.
That's right. Interested in them and what's important to them and what they want and what their needs and all these things are. And if you can combine those two together and then just focus on those things and, treat them like a pal, like you guys are here. It's not you, the salesperson, and then the customer. It's, hey, we're in this together. Let's figure out what you want, how we can give it to you. and get there. And if you can do that, you will never have problems with sales. Even though, and some of these tips and tricks you're talking about, yes, very important, like mimicking body language, like understanding, like certain people are analytical and whatnot. But to me, like, that's the 10,000 foot view, is just get to there. You don't even have to be a master at these other things, but if you can get there, you'll be much better off. Would you agree?
Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you, Wes. Sorry I was a little bit late, and then we got a late start, but this has been fantastic. Great words of wisdom and good tips for our viewers to use moving forward, not only if they're in the sales field, but in life, because you always got to be selling yourself, right, in terms of just getting out there and growing. So where can people find you and get more info on you?
thesaleswhisperer.com. Everything's there on my social media, down in the footer, my phone number, free reports. Just, I've made that for 12 years. So a lot of content there. If you can't find what you're looking for, just hit me up. I'll help you find it.
Awesome, man. Love it. And I love that name, the Sales Whisperer. It's like, that's gold. How did you get that website? Did you get it a long time ago, or is it?
I did. September 1st, if I remember right, 2006. I was literally watching The Dog Whisperer, had my laptop on my lap, and
nice.
And I was like, Sales Whisperer, Dog Whisperer. And
that took off.
10 days later, it did. Then he got divorced. That's why it doesn't really exist anymore, because his wife owned half of it. So now it's whatever by Caesar Milan. So he had to change it.
But I meant that Whisperer sort of, whatever you want to call that.
The Horse Whisperer, that was like 30 or 40 years ago. Then the Ghost Whisperer with Jennifer Love Hewitt. She's one of my favorites. I got to whisper because my wife's right there. But the Ghost Whisperer, then the Dog Whisperer.
Somebody said, what was the website? So it's the saleswhisperer.com, correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you, my man. Great seeing you. Thanks for joining us, people. This was a great episode. 5 Core Live. See you next time.
That's it for today's episode of the 5 Core Life podcast with Will Moore, founder of More Momentum. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have not already, please make sure to subscribe and follow the 5 Core Life podcast wherever you are listening or watching this so that you get notified when new episodes air every week. And if you have not joined the 5 Core Life Facebook group, I encourage you to join that and see what all of the fuss is about. There's some awesome content designed to get your momentum going, including a monthly giveaway to win a complimentary coaching call with the Will Moore. The Facebook group is currently the only place to get Will's dedicated attention on your 5 core journey. If you're feeling stuck or just want someone to cheer you on, then that is the place you need to be. There's nothing like a community of people on the same journey to get you fired up, kicking butt, and taking names. So come join us.
Well, get moving. Gain momentum. Join the movement. Join Emmett by going to moremomentum.com to take a free life evaluator quiz on where you currently stand in each of your 5 cores.